In this video, I will decode magic as it relates to manifestation, how it relates to where we find ourselves at this current time collectively, and point out some truths that we must see so that we can be fully and completely aware of where we place ourselves amongst the purposefully created quote-unquote chaos of what we see before our eyes. Most importantly, how we diffuse it. Manifestation is far more than what the New Age, quote-unquote, calls the law of attraction. Let's unfold the original and organic creation magic together. Let's pretend that we're gathering around the eternal flames of the sacred fire once again, so that we can bask in its radiant glow, for it illuminates not only the night sky, but also our souls. And in this enchanted space, we are transported to primordial times, where tales of wonder and magic were woven into the very fabric of existence. The warmth of the fire caresses our spirits, beckoning us to share stories of our journeys and quests. Since I can remember, I've been drawn to ancient books, texts, scrolls, tablets, and I'm always seeking the books of the mages, the stories of the medicine women and men of the old, and of the magic of the real magicians. So I seek to sit with the magic, both within our dimension and outside of it. And I don't speak of the low frequency magic that uses fear and much worse at its operational core. I speak instead of love magic. This is using the highest frequency known in all universes, love. This is the original. This is the organic creation magic. And at the core of this magic is about the being that is making the magic, that's actually doing the magic. So the power of magic, it is our will, and it is the intention that we bring into that. But what's interesting is that no matter what ancient texts that I read, or what dreamtime seeing provides to me, or how I go into the depths of rabbit holes of research, but what I know now is that there is a basic magic formula for manifesting. What does that mean? Bringing things to fruition that this universe runs on. And it's pretty simple, actually. And humans use magic and cast spells all day long. But most aren't aware that they're even doing that, and that magic is absolutely real. It just doesn't show up in the form, which is the sparkling essences from the fingertips. Though I dare say that just because our eyes can't see the ray of light in that way in this realm, that has no bearing on whether that actually happens or not. And I would say that it does happen. I would say that the healing essences from our bodies happen, but our eyes just aren't tuned to see it for a reason. Can you imagine you're shooting light from your fingertips all day long? It'd be pretty distracting. Now here's a graphic that I created that will help us go through this topic a little better. And this is what I call the magic power of co-creation. So it's a formula, if you will, and what we can really wrap our heads around so that we're moving on the same wavelength. So our mind, heart, and soul run on the frequencies coming into and from within our own selves. That really sets our intentions, it sets our emotions, and these two things consistently are always influencing each other. And this is how the mind really comes into this all, by working with these aspects. Often thoughts, intentions, and emotions, they're not fully in alignment with the words. So every time we speak, these are essentially codes or frequencies, and words make up spells, hence, of course, why it's called spelling. And that isn't a coincidence. As Alan Moore in his V for Vendetta graphic novel stated, there is no coincidence, only the illusion of coincidence. He's absolutely right. Words are vibrations that emit frequencies into the world. And the last element, really, to this whole formula is the actions. And often actions don't match all those other pieces. So what happens when all these pieces are not in alignment fully? This is actually why manifestation is extremely difficult for many. Also, often things are not kept in a realistic framework, or someone actually doesn't believe that it's possible to create this way. But there are moving parts that make up the entire, what I would say is a magical working of manifesting in our realm and beyond. But let's keep it simple. When we bring all of these aspects into total alignment, this is when magical things happen. Also, on top of this, when you creatively express these manifestation desires, so you're doing a creative expression of it, and when that's done, things happen very quickly. I've experienced this firsthand for a very long time now, and the power of it is beyond really what I can express in words, because it truly is magic. And there's a lot of confusions about prayer. So prayer is often misunderstood, and there are many varying forms of prayer. Prayer in ritual, prayer in ceremony, and prayers of gratitude, prayers of thanks. Often it's interpreted as we are supposed to be asking for something, and that's something that we want to happen to us, or something that we want brought into our life. The issue here is that when we ask for it, then we're actually acknowledging that it's not here now. When we ask for something, we say it's not here. And this means that we have just told the universe, told the intelligence web of life, that this something that we need, want, desire, does not exist here. So, the universe and all that is keeps it that way. And yes, that is how powerful we are. However, when we feel into the details using all of our senses, and we paint that picture entirely, when we tell the story, when we really write out in detail what we desire to manifest, when we speak it, when we write it into the fabric of existence, etc., what we're doing is we're creating energy, and we're using the right coding framework. So we build it through what I would say is called harmonic resonance with the thing or things that we want and or desire. Then we give thanks of gratitude and appreciation that the manifestation that we seek has already happened. This is a different way of looking at how we do this. This is how you're telling the codes of the universe that it exists. You're just lassoing it into your being, into your fold. So thereby, it does exist and it is manifested in form. Now, this is something that the ancient ones on this earth have known innately, yet over time and through, of course, misinformation, purposefully created misinformation, all of these true teachings have been stamped out. It's really time that we ensure that we bring this wisdom back to light. And I have a quote that I put pretty much everywhere. To manifest, we must incorporate all of our senses. We do not ask for something to happen. We feel as if it has already happened, and we give deep gratitude back into the divine realm of possibilities that it is so. So that's my quote. Speaking the universe language. That's really what this is about. So we need to speak to the universe, to the intelligence of all that is, in its desired way, through the ether, or we could say the field of intelligence. So intentions plus emotions, we could call these feelings, these create thoughts, right? The gratitude that it already exists is a huge component. And then there's no attachment, real attachment to the outcome, because you've already put in all the workings of exactly what you desire, and then let it go because it could be much different or bigger, or you don't see all the possibilities, right? So there's no attachment really to the outcome. You just know that it's being manifested, that it is here. These are what I would say are the foundations to the real mode of what we call prayer, but this is actually a manifestation process, the codings of actually manifesting. Now, the Nag Hammadi library holds the lost teachings. These are teachings that were left out of the book that we call the Bible. And they were left out on purpose because it gives us back a lot of our power, and it is powerful wisdom. And it's known as the Gospel of Thomas. And so what that reveals is a lot of truth around what the manifesting or prayer process should be. And that's available to read online, and if you're called into that research. There are people talking about this, and that's Greg Braden. So there are varying places to look more into this for your research, rabbit hole, deep dives. But the important part is doing it. And if you want details about manifestation, I have in-depth guides on my Disrupt Now Programs Awakening Magick website, and you can see more there. Just go into the description below. Once you build the framework of all the aspects that you desire, need, want, the manifestation aspects, you really feel into the feelings, the emotions, and what it would feel like as if that stuff, thing, whatever is here right now. Now you need to activate this code into the universe. This is a big part. But I want to hone in on one more aspect: belief. Why is belief also a fundamental piece to all of this? If someone states that the desire to manifest, they do all the things right, yet deep within the mind, there's potentially this negative being sending frequencies that is hijacking clarity. That's one aspect. Their mind starts spinning, making them not believe it's possible. So, what does that mean? There's a fundamental misalignment in this case. Now, this could also be just the human just doesn't believe in this stuff. And so there's this fundamental blockage, right? There's that aspect potential as well. If a person does not believe that it can be so, then it won't. No matter what they do, how much they try, it just won't work. So that negative aspect of non-belief totally hijacks the entire working, because the honest answer is that at the deepest of deepest thoughts, the feelings, intentions, etc., they weren't actually in alignment with the rest of all the things. Or, like I mentioned, the mind is hijacked by frequencies not their own. So that's a big thing that I don't think very many people talk about. I will hit on that topic, but in another video. Belief, as far as I have felt into and have received information on as a seer, belief is absolutely vital to the magical essence of manifesting, as is keeping it realistic. For example, someone is trying to manifest a 10,000 square foot home by tomorrow. Total and utter nonsense. When I'm speaking of these things, I'm speaking of actually doable elements. And the other thing to this is that I think far too many get hung up on this materialistic manifestation when that's missing the point. What is the emotion that would come from a need to be fulfilled? Joy, peace, safety. There's a lot of things like that need to be the underpinnings and are the essences of what really matters. The backbone as to the why and to the what. And something that I guide people on in my work is that there's a creative way to really dig into what you desire to manifest, the process of manifesting, the formula, if you will. Then we're bringing in the creative aspect to vibrate it further into the intelligence of all that is. That's the top layer of magic. It's the icing of the magical cake, we could say. And so what is this creative execution? Okay, so a creative way to express what you want to manifest is, if you can sing what you desire out loud. If you can write poems or write in general, write about it. Really get detailed and write about it often. If you can draw what you desire to manifest, etc. You get the gist. So creatively bringing things to life is part of that entire piece, and it's like the icing. And it's part of how we become powerful co-creators. And this is another layer that I think is really often missed. So let's take all of this and zoom out to see a bigger picture of how things unfold in our realm. Going back to Alan Moore, because V for Vendetta is one of my favorite stories. And he said it best in V for Vendetta, another quote, which I believe is perfect to set up the next piece of what I'm going to speak on. Since mankind's dawn, a handful of oppressors have accepted the responsibility over our lives that we should have accepted for ourselves. By doing so, they took our power. By doing nothing, we gave it away. We've seen where their way leads, through camps and wards, towards the slaughterhouse. And yes, this realm was hijacked by otherworldly negative beings that do not want H-U, men's humans. H-U stands for harmonic universe. And I discussed this in my video called Cosmic Mother and the Blue Ray that's working through Blue Ray starseeds and indigos. Because this is a first of its kind harmonic universe, Earth, Terra, Gaia, that's held within the Great White Lion Grid. So the Earth is held within this Great White Lion Grid, the first harmonic universe held in that grid. And this grid holds the truth and wisdom of the real parent, which is the cosmic mother. And these negative factions do not want this trinity form to evolve. It's ending their kind of extremism, and of course they don't want it to end. So the negative aspects of magic are the opposite of love, and it's using the exact same framework, essentially, the same tools, for the most part, but with very different operational aspects. Again, at the core of low frequency magic is fear, hate, greed, and much worse than that. This otherworldly faction uses their human counterparts, buying up and running all of the mainstream outlets for creativity. So think on that for a moment. Movies, newspapers, news, all things media. This faction then sits in what I call their EVIL, strategy boardroom, unifies around a common manifestation desire. They're not friendly co-workers, by the way. They're all just trying to consume and take as much power, control, light, etc. as they can. But they are united. Big difference. The non-human aspects that are outside our realm, they send in frequencies. And the actual humans they made into their errand boys and girls do what they're told. They write movie scripts, they get morally corrupt people and bring them into their fold to bring things to fruition, etc., etc., etc. It's a total and complete manifestation magic formula, and they're united on that front. So those are big 3 steps that they use consistently over and over and over and over. Then added on top of this all, they all believe in it. They have strategic moves. They take bold action. They know that if these things are in alignment and they believe they can do it, they feel that they can't be stopped. It is a many thousands of years united front working against all things love and all things evolution, all things positive, and in a very organized, magical way. EVIL, magical way, but magic nonetheless. Unfortunately, many of us hear with messages to negate all of these negative factions from doing what they're doing. And this is hundreds of years that we've been coming in. We're the ones that are always called the loonies, the crazies, the theorists of some kind. We aren't believed, of course. But that table is turning finally now, and with magnificent speed. Yet, I also know not fast enough on some levels. My desire is truly to speak these truths out there so that more and more can somehow catch that ripple of the love magic, and this quickens the everythingness of this all. Because the other challenge that we face is that we are one. This is the law of one at its core. And because we are one, we are all, without a doubt, greatly affected by people's choices and how they act within our realm. So those that aren't aware of what's happening, for example. So we end up getting sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place, as that adage goes. And here's what I'm proposing as a solution. What I'm seeing is that the negative ones always lay the groundwork. They show us and tell us through creative means, and then they go for it. So in a moment, I will share how we negate it, and that is how we unify on the opposite side, and we hold space for what I would like to call it, which is divine love. So these two creative expressions are new releases. And the creative formats that the factions use are often movies, as we well know. Looking deeply into who is involved in movies, when they're released, and what it is all connected into as part of the detective power, being the strategic dot connector about these codes of magic. So this first one, it's Netflix. It's based on a 2020 novel of the same name by a person named Rumaan Alam. I think the date that this book was released is beyond intriguing, don't you? 2020 novel? I think the date often tells stories. Also, it was in 2018 or so, Alam landed a job as the editor of special projects at the New York Times. Exactly. New York Times. Who owns that? That's rabbit hole in and of itself. Now, in this book, there's strange and dystopian end-of-world, quote-unquote, events that unfold around two couples, and then the two families navigate. There's racial tension, suspicion, and you guessed it, whole lots of fear. What I find absolutely fascinating is that a guy working at New York Times writes a book in 2020, and by 2023, there's a movie made and released. That means in about 2 years or so, something was contracted, because you don't create a movie in a few months' time. Even the most wonderfully famous Harry Potter series, the first movie didn't come out until 5 years after the first book, became a major hit, both in the UK and then outside of it, and we all know the huge successes those books faced globally. We must see the codes for what they are. And next, the poster has a stag on the front. Now, this is symbolism that has been increasing in the past years. And I'm of the lineage of the Celtic Druid lineage. So the Celtic lineage has a lot of symbolism around the stag. So in all the goodness that symbol represents, of course, these negative factions, even if the beings that are putting it out there have no conscious awareness of what's happening, the negative factions invert this. So they take good symbolism and just invert it, but that doesn't change the symbolism. That doesn't change the thing. The symbol is a symbol is a symbol. So why would they use this? Well, the director of that movie said, "Deer are peaceful creatures. To turn that sweet image into this sort of ominous, menacing, almost warning, thought it was really interesting." That's the trick about this movie. We always try to take the things that we never really considered a threat and then turn it around on them. Now let's talk about this director a bit. There was a big headline that came out that says, "Leave the World Behind director addresses conspiracy theories about the Obama's involvement." Now, when the director, who, by the way, the name is Sam Esmail, was asked about this, he said, Esmail shared that the producers did not have a huge influence on the script since it's a book adaptation and had already been written. Previously, though, Esmail shared that Barack Obama did help ground him a bit more on how things might unfold in reality in regard to his experience watching real-life crises unfold as president. Then the next movie, which I'm not even going to say the title, because that's another part of their EVIL spell, is the words of things. So it's really imperative to be mindful of that. This was written and directed by Alex Garland, who you may have run into before in other movies. Now look at the date that it's being released. Put a pin on that as we're going to come back to that. In January 2022, it was reported that Garland had signed on to write and direct the film for a film company called A24 and DNA Films. Yes, DNA Films. But after much research, it's not clear where this idea for the movie really came from, though. I couldn't find much on this, and I lived in New York City for 9 years. I've seen that world of creative filmmaking and agencies behind them, and I think the word toxic is barely scraping the surface, and I'm sure there are gems. I'm not blanket stating, but those are few and far between. And let's be honest about that entire industry, which of course is changing on its head as well, thankfully so. Let's come back a moment on that date, the date of this being released. What you're going to see now is things coming out even from the Patriot style of what I guess we could say is truthers that are now going to say that this is going to be what happens in spring of 2024. Well, guess what? They just bought into the negative factions game. In fact, you'll see EVIL-owned manifestation tools that they use, what we would call media platforms. They're already priming this and encoding their lowest of low primordial fear magic into people. Here is proof that this happens. We have these to show us. Ironic, isn't it? And make sure to look really closely at the names. It really doesn't get more mainstream, does it? This is how it works, and this is how it always has worked. Every lie, every manipulation, etc. is done in this formulaic way, if you will. What I realized is this is a way to get others to help the EVIL to create a timeline. So the more people that can get to believe in what they desire to manifest, it compounds it. That is power. It is the power of numbers. So releasing creative things like this is a way for the negative ones to try to create a strategic move, a way to manifest a desire, a way to create a desired timeline. And far too many play into these themes without even knowing what's going on. The magic weaves the primordial fear deep within the psyche of the subconscious of many, those that are aware and not aware alike. It is a game in a lot of ways, an unfair game, but now we are unveiling the rules. For far too long, one side had the rule book of the game. Not anymore. The apocalypse, which root meaning of this word means to unveil, in this, we are unveiling, and what we're doing is creating an even playing field, so to speak. Now we see, but now how do we flip this on its head? How do we take their inversion of truth and turn this world right side up? Basically, this is what I'm calling phasing, timeline phasing. The strongest souls on earth right now are those being called into true and pure guardianship again. The Emerald Founder Roundtable, the Guardian Founder races, etc., all the elements coming in, and the way they incarnated in many of us here and have been dropping in that wisdom for over a century and more. They dropped their wisdom and left it here for us to uncover. And we are all working to end the extreme EVIL and their senseless warring, pillaging, and creating this loop of endless suffering, despair, etc. And when I was in Avebury Henge and other areas in the awakening lands of Albion, wrapping around the Michael Mary dragon line a couple of months ago, I had a poem come through from the lineage that we call Merlin, or what I call Merlion. And I talk about this in my video called Unveiling Merlin, Who or What is Merlin, and the spiritual connection to our evolution. And at about the 3-minute and 30-second mark in that video, I discussed the poem that came through me from that lineage when I was there in those lands and I was feeling that energy. So that has more insight on it. But the poem is, the magic of Merlin awakens for all to hear, melding with dragon and Arthur to rid the world of the primordial fear, the fear of ages, boundless from time. We dissolve this now for all to know, for the time of Pendragon allows the sacred energies to wind and flow. Pendragon returns the powers of mother and queen, of magic that comes from the sacred towers. As this has unwound within me, in this noted ending of the primordial fear, this is really speaking of ridding creation or universes of the beings that cause that fear in that extreme way. And we flip this all by not moving into the primordial fear. And we anchor in a timeline of love by anchoring in our belief. And we also do the necessary workings of the manifestation magic formula I presented earlier, with the underpinning of wisdom and knowing that it will not be so. We are not being ignorant. We see everything very clearly, with more clarity, in fact, than ever before, because now we know the rules of this game that this faction plays, and we are armed with that wisdom. We do the manifesting of the original creation or organic magic for the greater good of all beings. I say we because I know anyone called into this channel, the videos, articles, all these things will be of the desire for the higher octave and mending of all of creation to an organic or original state of being. I know that a being that wants to choose the negative path, which is an option, will not be listening to me. So I can say that we don't want the negative, horrific timelines that these EVIL factions desire to bring forth. We want and are here to assist, to provide paths of awakening magic and remembering so that more can clearly choose what they desire, without the prison framework, energetically speaking, that these otherworldly EVIL sorcerers trap this realm in after the fall of Terra and the hijacking of the Gaia timelines that took place, of which I have remembered, and I will share more as we progress. My desire is for all of us here in this container, so to speak, is to bring forth the highest good medicine through all of our powerful and varying unique sacred missions. The pioneers, the indigos, starseeds, and wanderers, let us manifest the opposite that the negative factions want, and then we anchor in the timeline, the octave that we desire. Now, I do discuss this anchoring of timelines and choice points in my video called Energy Update for Samhain and into November 2023. What timeline do you choose? That wasn't just about Samhain and November 2023 moment. That is the Celtic New Year, by the way. That's the start of my new year. But it was a time of this energetic opening, or these goalposts, if you will, for this anchoring aspect. So it was like entering into the goals. I explained it in that video. But I do have manifestation articles that go in depth. If we all start working this magic together, even if not actually together, this is the workings of magic. And when we all can be powerful in that knowing, this changes everything as far as I can see it all. I hope this video helps you to awaken more of your magic. Subscribe to get more videos that are meant to illuminate the path for indigos and starseeds and all humans here with sacred missions to serve as the pioneers in this massive, paradigm shift of consciousness, together we are remembering the original creation magic. Thank you so much for watching.